Hello, it's Sinead here from Generation Women, and the next in my series of live videos is focusing on how to manage upwards. And this came up as a topic of discussion in my Facebook group, the Career Winners group, and it's an absolutely vital skill for anybody to learn. So if there's somebody above you in your organisation, whether it's the board, senior leaders, your manager, a senior team, whoever it is, it's really important to learn how to manage up that way. And I get a lot of feedback working in businesses that actually it's something that women probably aren't as good at. And I say that not to be critical, but because women tend to focus on getting the job done, building a network around them at peer level and below, and put less focus and attention on managing upwards. But if you want to be really successful, then it's something you've got to learn how to do. So I'm going to share with you some strategies to make that easier. And it's important for not just being successful, but also because people leave managers. And when you adopt some of these approaches that we're going to talk about, you build better relationships. And of course, that's going to be of benefit for you, for the business, and just make you happier when you go home at night. So the first thing you need to think about is, who do I need to influence? So who are the key people that I need to build that relationship with? And how you determine that? Well, who has a say in measuring your performance? Who has a say in your prospective future career? And who could be beneficial to be building that relationship with? Like, who are the influencers, the movers and the shakers in your organisation? And those are good people to start with. But the number one relationship, of course, is to build with your manager. And it's not good enough to just think, if I'm good at my job, it will all come good. It would be lovely to think that, but unfortunately, we often don't get noticed unless things are going wrong, or things are under a lot of pressure and stress. And when we're doing things well, it tends not to be quite as obvious. So hopefully you've got some good reasons why you need to do it. So now you've decided who, it's time to start to understand the style of the people that you want to manage. So whether that's your manager or whoever, look at, first of all, how do they like to be communicated with? So look at their emails. Do they write short, snappy emails? Do they write big, long ones? And you need to adapt your communication style to theirs, because it will make it much easier for them to understand where you're coming from. And people like the way they work, so they like things back that way. When you're speaking to them in person, do they like to have something visual in front of them? Do they like to have, and I spoke a bit about these things in influence, so some of the principles are similar, but even more important in managing upwards, because if you want to share an idea or get something noticed, then you're going to want to present it back in the way that they like to receive it. So you might want to think about, creating a visual pack if that's what they like, arranging time for discussion if that's how they like it. And particularly if you have one-to-ones, if you don't have one-to-ones, start organising them for yourself. But if you do, make sure that you bring yourself well prepared and prepared to deliver where you're at in the format that this person is going to like. Big picture, detail, You know, do they like a process to follow? Whatever it is, you bring that to them. The next thing to understand is the pressures that they're under, the struggles that they're facing, and look at how you can proactively help them. So that doesn't matter whether it's your direct manager or somebody else in the leadership team, but what is it that's their priority? And how do you find that out? Well, you ask, you know, so what's the current big focus? What do we need to be prioritizing right now? You know, what's keeping you awake at night? Is there anything I can do to help that? And that's going to show that you're thinking beyond yourself and proactive about how to help. Another thing then to understand is their values and what drives them. So I always recommend when you manage people that you take a good bit of time to understand their values by asking questions like, what's important to you? What do you want to achieve in your role? But equally, these are questions to ask up the way. And when you can understand people's values, then you can understand what's important to them. You'll really be speaking in their language and understanding their priorities and where their focus is. Something else you can do then is also to ask them, you know, how do they want feedback? How do they want to be reported to? And make sure that you keep in visibility by doing that on a regular basis and by maybe adding in some of your own things that you think are going to be helpful. So you can use this to raise your visibility too. Obviously, building the relationship is crucial. So take the time to understand people, you know, beyond the transactional, and I've spoken about this before. So finding out what's going on and not being nosy for the sake of it, but being interested in what's going on in people's lives and following up with that, you know, making sure that you remember. So if somebody's child's starting school or university or whatever it may be, following up, seeing how they're getting on, have they settled in. People love that extra connection because it makes it apparent that you value the relationship, that you take the time to remember what's important to this person, and that you come with that. You know, it makes a huge difference. I would recommend that you ask for regular feedback as well, and not just, oh, can you give me some feedback, but ask, you know, when you've asked what's important to them, and maybe you could ask them, what does success look like in me doing my role, and how do you think I could achieve more of that, and what more do you think I could be doing? And so you can ask good questions of feedback in your one-to-one sessions and find out what things you can be doing differently, and make sure you act upon it and then feedback about it. So it's no good just making the change and expecting it to be noticed, which would be lovely, but maybe bring it up, you know, say in our last session, I really appreciated the feedback you gave me about X, and what I've done with that is, and here's the results I got. So I really took on board what you said, and it's been of great benefit. Thank you very much for that insight. And then you can build on that and go and get feedback beyond your manager. You know, understand what the leadership team or the board or whoever are looking for and what they want to see from you, and you'll learn an awful lot in that process. And I'll do another video another day about asking for feedback. It's also important, obviously, probably should have said this first, to do your job and do it well. But I'm assuming that that's something you already do. But not just do it well, but also highlight some of the things so that your your manager or your leadership team can see what you're doing. So a big part of managing upwards is raising visibility of what you're doing and showing how that connects with their challenges and how you're supporting them in their priorities. So it's that whole thing of, well, you know how we were having this issue as a business. Well, what I did was, and you outline that, so that we can start to move in this direction or make changes, and hopefully that makes your job a bit easier or whatever it is. I mean, that's a magnificent way to simply feedback something, get validation for what you're doing, show how you're being supportive, and really heighten your impact and people's awareness of you. The main thing I would always say in managing upwards is to listen. People will give you everything you need to know. It's a phrase I use often, so listen to what your management, your leadership are talking about a lot. Listen to the language they use, listen to the challenges that they cover or the opportunities they talk about, and take that on board and look at what can I be doing for that, and come back with ideas about that, and ask good questions. I mean, when I started to learn coaching, that was when I became really aware of the power of a good question. And it's not always easy to think of them on the hoof until it's become part and parcel of what you do. So I always used to carry a set of really good questions. You can download them off the internet. You can message me for some good open questions. And then those are the things that I would have used in meetings and in coaching sessions, and they're applicable everywhere. So some good questions you might ask are, well, what's the outcome you're looking for here? What does success look like? What would you see the priorities being? What would your approach be, or what advice would you give me in doing this? What more can I be doing? And using questions like that shows that you're proactive, you're focused, and you're willing to take advice and feedback. And so those are some of the key things I would suggest in managing upwards. It's all about your relationship, your communication, and as a recap, understanding the other person's perspective, listening, asking good questions, building the relationship, and of course you want to make them look good. If you make them look good, hopefully if they're not a bad manager or a bad leader, then they will repay it and support you. And the last thing I'm going to share with you is to also make clear the support that you want. So you're doing a lot to manage up to support their needs. Then share your goals, your ambitions, and the support that you're looking for. And don't just expect it to happen by magic. Sometimes people need it spelled out. So I hope you find that useful. It's one of my favourite topics. I love coaching people on this stuff because you can get really powerful results by increasing that awareness and becoming more strategic about your approach. And I've seen it raise people's visibility, transform relationships, and really build massive amounts of success in what they do that they just weren't achieving before. So if you're interested in chatting about coaching, then as always you can PM me, and I'll look forward to chatting to you again soon. I'll be back with more tips. Take care, bye.